We haven't really talked election stuff, actually, just even in hanging out with each other. It's been...
No, just through a few texts, memes, whatnot.
Before, I think by the time this comes out, it would be
2 weeks.
2.5. Today's 2 weeks. So today is November 16th. November 16th today, 2024.
Today's 10 days.
Today's 10 days. By the time this comes out, it'll be 3 weeks.
Okay.
Because it's been it's only been a week, right? This week has only been a week.
Right. Tuesday makes it a week. Right?
Yeah. So by the time this comes out, it'll be 2 weeks. I think I'm going to release it on Tuesday. Got one on Monday, got one on Tuesday.
Okay.
Meanwhile, just so people know who are going to tune into this episode, we've talked about politics on my show before. I'm not very political. I think that's something that you've also said. But I like politics. I've grown to like politics. And I think that I sent you a podcast earlier today, Alex Hermosi, where he shared that we all basically kind of share the same ideas relative, for the most part. And people would be surprised if you put what you believe in on a piece of paper,
right, and
then, realize that you guys voted completely differently. So, little disclaimer, I don't mean for this show to be divisive. I don't mean for this episode to be leaning one way. I'm going to try my best to kind of give the benefit of the doubt of both ways. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to look at the other side and be like, oh yeah, this makes sense for this.
Yeah.
So, I'll try to be not biased. It's just going to be tough, but I want to have a conversation about it because election night was wild. I think it was wild. I woke up.
I think post-election day was wild.
Yeah.
'Cause election night, I went to sleep early.
I went to sleep pretty early,
assuming that it was just going to take hours the next day or days to get to the result.
Well, because you saw stuff and I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter, specifically coming from like Obama and Kamala, that it could take weeks, and Trump's going to really try to speed up this process. So I'm thinking like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Exactly. And again, like I say, here we go because in 2020. That's what happened. It took a little bit longer than it should. We didn't get a decisive winner.
And I don't remember it happening in 2016. I don't remember it happening in 2012.
No.
I don't remember it happening in 2008. And 2020 was the whole COVID thing with mail-in ballots and all that. Yeah. So yeah, I assumed it was going to be like 2020 all over.
And having talked to people and had conversations with people in the office, it happened in 2004 supposedly.
Where that was Bush.
That was Bush and Gore.
No, that was
McCain?
That was Bush and the climate change guy, Kerry. John Kerry?
Was it John Kerry?
His name is John Kerry. Something. The guy that was flying around all over the world telling us to buy electric stoves.
Yeah, that's what they all do though.
I know his last name is Kerry. I don't know if his name is John.
Let's see. I'm gonna look it up here. The 2000
something Kerry
election. Let's see. 2004 electoral map. So the 2004 27 to win. It was George Bush versus John F. Kerry.
John Kerry. Okay.
Yeah. John Kerry.
Yeah, he looks like the guy from the Munsters. That's what they were saying back then.
That's funny. Yeah. So we have John F. Kerry had 59 million votes.
His name is John F. Kerry?
John F. Kerry.
So he's a JFK?
He's a JFK, yeah.
That's terrible.
JFK. 59 million votes. And then Bush received the popular vote and also the electoral vote, 286 to 251.
In 04, right?
In 04.
So I wasn't, we were in...
So 04 was 13?
We were in high school,
14,
early high school.
Yeah, it was 14.
And I remember 03, we invaded Iraq. So that was tough for him to win because usually wartime, the president that's president, people vote for them to stay president to win the war.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was a controversial war. But
right. Yeah. So, again, this is just, for those who don't know, this election, 2024, was my first presidential election that I've ever voted in. I've shared that with you. I've shared that with a bunch of other people. I would have voted in 2020, but there was some circumstance. I think my son was sick or we were in the process of moving. I can't remember. But there's something that happened that I just couldn't get to the ballots that day. And
I think it mattered, but I hear you.
Yeah, right. In 2016, care about politics. I didn't think about politics. I, quite frankly, didn't even know Trump and Hillary were running. Maybe I did at a surface level.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. I didn't vote in 2012. I was in college, and in 2008, I didn't vote either. So this election, I voted because I think a lot of the things that mattered for me, I think is the reason why a lot of people voted, because there was a lot of I think the number, I mean, I can scroll through here and find it, but there was a lot of people who came out and voted for the first time.
Yeah, I saw that.
And voted,
something like that.
and voted Republican.
I didn't see what they voted. I saw there was a lot of first-time registered voters that voted.
Yeah, let me make sure I keep my facts right. I don't want to make sure they.
I mean, maybe that's what you saw. I didn't see that.
I think I heard it, but again, I'll be I try to keep my facts in line with stuff that are accurate. Again, I don't want this to be a divisive episode, and I'm going to post it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what Hermosi is saying, like, we shouldn't have differences with each other, and because of politics, right? Let's look at each other's morals. And I think the problem is that people are attaching politics and morals.
I mean, the thing is, differences with politics is fine. You can have differences in politics. The problem is how you treat each other because of those differences.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just difference of opinion.
Exactly. And we've been pretty polarized for the last 8-12 years. There's a lot of reasons, which I think we'll go into a little bit in this discussion. So let's talk about one. We'll talk about the election. We'll go through a little bit about what we saw on both sides during the campaign, even maybe during the primaries. Obviously, Kamala wasn't part of the primary process.
No, she was not.
But waking up to a win on that day, I'm thinking like, this isn't real. Like there's something that's going to happen. And even up until election day, I was really skeptical of this election even happening. Whether there be some sort of quote unquote black swan event. Again, conspiracy, people would throw it out there.
And that's crazy because you said you started getting into politics post Trump in 2016. Yeah, which means your first experience in election season, which you just admitted you didn't partake in, was 2020, which is a very unique time of election time with the COVID and the mail-in ballots and all of that. Right. And now your second time is this one, and your only experience is 2020. Mm-hmm. My first time voting in a presidential election was probably 2008. No, not even, because I wasn't in the country in 2008. But I don't remember a time when it was like this, where I also went to sleep and had the same thoughts that you had, which was, we're not going to get the results for a day, maybe 2 or 3 days. Because of what they're saying, it's going to take a while to count the votes.
Right. And then you're seeing...
Why does it take so long to count the votes?
And on X, I was on X and I kept seeing that it was very, like, all day from 8:30. I barely did any work on election day, from 8:30 till probably 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night. I'm on X and I'm following and I'm watching, and you hear things going on with voter machines and things like that, like things that are not really.
I saw some reports too about that
in Pennsylvania, and then there's stuff happening in all the swing states, and obviously. So here's the thing, right? I do believe that I'm in an echo chamber of information that applies to me. I'll make that very obvious and clear. But when I see the stuff that I agree with, I try to find stuff that I don't agree with. So is this happening elsewhere? Is this happening on the Democratic side? Is it happening to her? Is it and it didn't seem like it was. So, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just like, Trump won. Like, Trump won.
That was that night or the morning when you woke up?
The morning when I woke up. So he won 312 to 226 landslide. Completely.
Was that total or when you saw it? Because I think when I saw it in the morning, they still had a tally of some states, but it was over at that point anyway.
277 to 226. She hadn't gained any more states outside of that.
Oh, okay.
They were waiting on Nevada and New Mexico, maybe.
I think Arizona.
Arizona. Okay. And that's, the final number's 312 to 226. I think from my understanding, or I guess what I've grown to understand with politics, like most of this stuff doesn't, like, it impacts us, right? It does impact us.
Policies affect us.
Policies affect us. I have such a hard time with the thought that because of whatever policy, people getting cut off, right? People getting cut off because of you voted for a specific person. Like Hormozy said, 50% of the country voted for one candidate that won, one candidate that lost.
Right.
How do we get here? Like, how are we here as a nation where you go back to just the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. I saw hate like all over Twitter, some hate on Facebook. If you voted for Trump, I'm gonna do this, and this. Like what? Like why? Like why? And that's the part that really frustrates me throughout this whole process.
Yeah, that's the power of propaganda. That goes back to the media and the power of the media, and really how when they say the media is the real enemy of the people nowadays, I agree with that, because when you call somebody Hitler for 8 years and people only watch the news, they're going to believe that this man is actually Hitler, which is terrible.
Do you think that's why they tried to assassinate him? Or do you think that's inside?
Well, back to what you originally said. So that's why there's so much hatred, because you could look at somebody who voted for Trump and you could say, how could I don't understand, you're supposed to be a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. How could you vote for someone that is Hitler? They've been telling me for 8 years, this guy is Hitler.
Right.
This guy is equivalent to a person that exterminated 6 million Jews and wanted to take over the world and was the ultimate white supremacist. Mm-hmm. You're telling me this guy is just like this and you voted for him? Mm-hmm. How could I be cool with you after that? So that causes division right there.
Yeah, and I think too. Again, I'm gonna really try. This is gonna be me.
It really is an ignorance of history. Is really what it is.
So
if you really knew about what Hitler did,
right,
or any inclination of what he did, or knew a little bit of what he did, you would know Trump is to say that is just absurd. It's laughable.
Right.
It's laughable.
Right. And
you might not like what he says. You might not like how he looks. You might not like his antics.
That he wasn't a politician.
I'm not a big fan of his antics. A lot of his antics myself. But to compare him to a man that murdered 6 million Jews is
crazy.
It's crazy. For lack of a better term, it's crazy.
I think what I found very obvious, and this just goes back to 2020, because I didn't follow the media, and you probably saw the media in 2016. But what I found really obvious is that there was always a one-sided approach in how they came after Trump. Always. And here's the thing. Listen, he says wild stuff. Joe Rogan said it. Trump on the podcast, they opened up. Trump goes, I don't know why they do this. And Joe Rogan goes, I know why, because you say wild shit.
You say wild shit.
You say wild shit. And I had a conversation with someone at the office, and I was told that for her voting decision, she can't agree with. This was a very moral and character-based election for her. No, they're fair.
I hear that a lot.
That's fair. Listen, fair. I don't judge you for that.
You're free to vote for anybody for whatever reason you choose. Sure. If you don't like his shoes.
And she actually goes, she's like, even though I align more with the conservative side of things, policy-wise, I know morally, based off of the character of the individual, I can't go that direction. So
how do you know someone's morals based off you never met them?
So I think it comes down to what I'm about to go into here. You have the media again, guys. 4 years of me really following and paying attention. Call me what you want. I don't care. Conspiracy, uneducated. Mainstream media has depicted Donald Trump as someone who he is not. Because when you look at who he was before, he was on The View. He was getting hugs and kisses from Whoopi Goldberg and whomever was on with her crew.
He was on MSNBC.
On MSNBC.
Getting hugged up.
Had The Apprentice show. Mm-hmm. Listen, whatever he did in his business life, he, failed bit, whatever the case might be, people liked him for the most part. So
he was flawed. Who wasn't?
Right.
Who isn't?
Right. And I think, I don't mean to play this tit for tat kind of, and that's the one thing, like, Chris Cuomo, but, mm-hmm. I don't, that's not what I'm trying to say. And I think we as a people do that. I think based off of what we believe in, right? We kind of like, hey,
well, you're always going to try to defend
your side, right?
So you hear something and you're going to listen. You're going to say, but.
Right.
Yeah, natural.
Right. And for the record, when it comes to anything that anyone ever disagrees with me, come on my show. Come on the show and talk to me about it. Like I want people. This is why I changed it to the open exchange.
Definitely, yeah.
Because one, I'm not the most educated on anything, on politics. Listen, I'm now that the election's over, I'm now trying to educate myself on all these picks that Trump's picking for the cabinet. Like I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea. Like I'll be quite frank. What I do know is that for the last 4 years, I've seen the media attack Trump. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until 2023, and I had this conversation with someone. I said, hey, in 2023, when Donald Trump announced that he was running president, shortly after, what came? The indictments for the hush money trial. A trial that had no new evidence, that there was nothing different that had happened, and then they went to go convict him 3 months or 4 months before the election. Why do you think that happened? Oh yeah, because he's running for president.
Right. Yeah, he admitted that.
The person admitted that. Right. They admitted that to me. So, when you look at the media, again, you turn it on and it's, Trump said this, and they're very slick and very I don't want to say subtle, but tactful on how they do it.
Yeah.
They will lead with like the Trump stuff, and then they'll go divert to something else, and then that's it. People only tune in because they want to.
You only remember the thing that they showed you,
correct,
and then go to something else.
Correct. Right. And again, here's the thing: we are wired to. I truly believe, like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go seek out and search the news outlets that I agree with most, like, because that's just it is. So I'm openly admitting that most of the stuff I see, I agree with. But when you go to the other side of things, a lot of the stuff doesn't freaking make sense. Doesn't make sense. Like, give me one thing that makes sense that comes from that side. Again, from a news outlet.
Well, from a news outlet or the other campaign.
Or the other campaign, which let's go back to that piece, because this is what
I mean, it's all related.
It is all related. So let's do a little bit of Kamala Trump in the last few months, and then we can kind of branch off into how Kamala even got there, and then we'll maybe talk some policy stuff and kind of go from there. So I voted Trump, guys, brother, Latino. I mean, like, I voted Trump, and I voted Trump because of the economy. The last 4 years, it's crazy. Which most people would say, well, it's, we got the backlash from COVID, the pandemic. What can you do about that? What can Biden do about that? Okay, we'll talk a little. I'll address some stuff there that I like to maybe debunk a little bit. And then the immigration thing. I think the immigration thing's a problem. I think that's probably, I pulled up on the exit polls, here. So in 2024, so listen to this. Less important than 2020. Racism. No one cared about that in the 2020 election. Nobody cared about that in the 2024 election.
Okay.
Healthcare. It was more important than it is in 2020. Reasonably. I think healthcare is a big deal. Like, trying to figure out, like, there's countries that have free healthcare, and healthcare is super expensive. Kind of why? Like, you want to question why? Like, what? They're running a business at this point. Like, it seems like $1 billion
making money,
business.
keeping you sick,
right? Keeping you sick. So that's one. More important than 2020, climate change was at 7%. Immigration
7% climate change.
Yep. Surprisingly enough, I'm not surprised. Foreign policy wasn't a big voting factor in it doesn't. I mean, percentage wise. So immigration was 5 times more important at 20% of the votes than 2020. The economy is 39%. Those are the two things that I voted for. Now, again, this is for both sides. This is not a
just juxtaposed.
This is just
not who you voted for, why you voted.
Why you voted, right? And I go back to the Hormozy thing. I bet that people who were on the right side are like they kind of agree with having abortion. We will not talk abortion. I'm not in a position to, that's not something that I want to talk about. Again, going back to what I said earlier, if anybody wants to come on and talk about that and why it's so important, I would love to sit down and just have a conversation to it's most likely going to be a woman, I would assume, to talk about their stance on abortion and why they voted one way or the other. But the big thing here is economy and immigration. You've told me some stories about immigration with stories that you've heard. What do you think? Why do you think that this was the second most reason why people voted in 2020? Economy and immigration. In 4 years, we've had recorded, let's just say 15 million people cross the border, recorded. I read
the ones we know about.
I read the other day, and this was on the Department of Justice's website, so I'm not making this up. 400 children missing at the border. 400,000 children missing at the border.
I heard it was about almost 500,000.
400,000 children gone missing that the government turned a blind eye to.
Yeah.
That's a problem, man. And again, we want to talk about humanitarian, that's, you want to have compassion. I have compassion for the children that are going missing and I get that these children want a better life. These families want a better life. But there's a way to do it.
Well, some of these children were already kidnapped by whoever they needed to take them to bring them across the border, cartels or whatever it is. It's crazy. You say a number 400,000 and it just rolls off the tongue like nothing. Think about just one kid, right? And where they came from, innocent child, what they're being used for, right? What they're making money off them, how they're making money off of them. I can't think of a single argument as to how that's not a big deal, right? And you mentioned economy and immigration. I'm in my 30s. I'm a single person. And one thing that I heard a lot of people say was, what is the one thing that you vote for? What is your one main issue? And I never really thought about it like that. And I thought about it for my personal thing. And for me, it's really the economy, right? Trying to save money, trying to invest, maybe try to buy some property, right? So for me, I need to boom an economy. When you really think about it, this country has gone through plenty of recessions, the Great Depression, and we've come out on the other side, right? And there's a limit to that, but I think we'll be okay. But when it comes to the immigration thing, one thing that really bothered me with the Harris-Biden administration, it seems like they don't think crossing the border illegally is a crime. And that's something that always bothered me, because if you don't have borders, if you don't have a system to let people in and out, then what kind of country do you even have? And like you said, almost 500,000 kids unaccounted for, and people don't even care, as if it's nothing. So on top of that, you have a lot of crime rates going up in different parts of the country. Right. It's known that some of the people adding to this crime rate are here illegally, and some of them have been deported multiple times. right? Which just speaks to a larger overall broken immigration system. And so if you don't have a set thing of borders, if you don't have a process, what country do you have? Because you could have a great economy if you have people coming over here that aren't from here,
right,
that aren't into it. Then it's eventually the beginning of the end. And so that's why for a lot of Hispanics, it's very insulting for a political party to throw the immigration thing, open borders thing in your face all day, as if every Hispanic out there wants open borders. Right. That makes no sense whatsoever, because a lot of Hispanics come from countries where these countries protect their borders to the death.
Right.
So now they're going to come here, and why? Because some people who are Hispanic happen to be crossing the border illegally. I'm supposed to want open borders?
Yeah.
Right? When some people came here, they did it the correct way. They waited in line for years at a time. Wasn't easy. I think there should be an overhaul of the immigration process. It shouldn't be that difficult if you're a hardworking person, no criminal record or whatnot. And then you have these, hundreds of thousands of millions of people coming in illegally over the last 3 years. And then you hear these stories in certain cities, they're giving them housing, they're giving them credit cards, they're giving them phones, they're giving them all this type of stuff.
Did you see what happened when Trump got elected? Mayor Adams stopped the vouchers for illegal immigrants in New York like a day later.
The next day?
The next day. Like a day or two later, yeah.
That's interesting, because he's definitely not a Trump guy.
No, he's not a Trump guy.
But he knows what's up.
What's interesting, and I want to go through a couple of things here, still on the economy, but based off of what the Democrats right now. Again, I like to put the tinfoil hat on every now and again. Patrick Bet-David says only the paranoid survive. And fortunately and thankfully, we haven't had anything crazy happen yet. But they've been quiet. There's no Hitler talk. There's no threat to democracy. Why'd that change?
Well, the guy who was calling him Hitler for 4 years just met with invited him to the White House. So it makes you wonder: is that Hitler talk just a political game,
rhetoric,
or did you really believe that to scare the people?
Right.
Because some people apparently really believe that.
Right.
You can call them ignorant, dumb, whatever you want to, but at the end of the day,
people
a population of the country believe that.
Definitely.
Right. And so if you think somebody is Hitler, you will do whatever you need to do to stop Hitler. Right. The whole saying goes, right, if you could abort Hitler in the womb or kill Hitler as a baby, would you do it? Right? That's the mindset.
Damn.
Right? So people think this guy's really Hitler. He was president once, we got him out, right? By electing somebody with the most votes in US history, 81 million votes. And now we can't let him back in there. Right. We'll do whatever we can to get him, not let him in there. Because why? He's Hitler.
Right.
But the guy that was calling him a Hitler just invited him in the White House. So make up your mind.
And guys, this is Dave and I having a conversation on my show. And Dave knows, and a lot of people in my family know, I, in 2020, was very emotional about politics. I think that ignorance with politics and what's happening in the world can breed that kind of emotion, where I thought I was right about everything. I'm not right about everything. I'm hoping Trump gets this country back together. I think they're going to I have a gut feeling he is, with who he has behind his back. But it could go the other way. I just don't think it can't get any worse than what it's been. So, I urge people in general just to separate the emotion. And yes, listen, if you voted one way or the other, it's fine. You can be cool with people, regardless to what it is. You should be able to be because here's the thing. I had this random thought the other day. I said, I walk by so many people. I talk to so many people in the office for what I do for work. I never ask them what their political stance is. We never talk politics, right? I make really solid connections with people that I do business with. People that I get referrals from. I don't know who they voted for. They don't know who I voted for. They are going to know after today. But the point is that it doesn't change the interactions that you have with people. It shouldn't change the interactions that you have normally with people.
It shouldn't.
You know? So I just urge people to really separate the emotion. Be sure you cannot like the guy. And again, I don't, you know, we heard it in that podcast that I sent you, the Earn Your Leisure, which is a couple things that really irked me with that. I didn't like specifically on the immigration thing that we talked about, where they were like, if you're going to bring the immigrants into this country, you got to at least make them vote. Did you hear him say that?
I did hear him say that. Yeah.
Like, what? Come on, man. So there was that, but like,
well, that was a conspiracy theory the whole time.
Well,
Why are they bringing all these people in?
Right.
Well, to vote.
Right.
And to states where they don't need ID.
And it turns out that didn't. I mean, who knows? Maybe a few of them did, but 69 million votes is not a lot of votes if they did. If they brought in 15, 20 million people, it's not that many votes. So again, you know, the one thing I will say, I find peace that a lot of the things I thought was going to happen didn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I think
they tried to kill a guy twice. I was thinking a bunch of wild stuff was going to happen.
Twice. You know, PBD called this a year of chaos. I think the first like 6 months were like a year chaotic, but then outside of, you know, him getting shot at or gotten shot, it didn't get too crazy. But, you know, just separate the emotion. Like, you know, I might not agree with everything Dave has to say. We're really good friends, but, you know, there may be a point where you say something like, nah, I don't agree with. Like, again, but doesn't make us less friendly with each other. So, but going to the economy stuff, I pulled a chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is obviously accessible as a government website. You can find all this stuff. And we talk about the government, we talk about inflation, and a couple of things I learned about inflation over the last couple of days, and just it really didn't dawn on me. And I've been listening to these financial guys for the last 3 or 4 years, and for some reason it clicked. Inflation is caused because of adding money into the economy, printing dollars, which devalues the money. So what we're seeing with prices isn't a function of things being more expensive. It's a function of your dollar is worth less.
Correct.
And for some reason, it just clicked. I don't know why. So I said, okay, now it makes sense why people are putting money into Bitcoin, why people put money into art,
to gold,
why people put into gold, into cards and things like that, because those are a hedge against inflation. Their dollars will be preserved no matter what. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in this chart, which I thought was pretty interesting, people's earnings from 2021 to 2024 went up, and if you remember, during that time, I think they increased the minimum wage.
They did.
Yeah, they increased.
Some states,
some states increased the minimum wage. So you have here in 2021, the average weekly earnings was just under $1,050. Okay, so this was in January 2021. As you go to let's go. So your weekly earnings were the same about what it was really costing you. So the inflation factor hadn't really impacted people yet. Mm-hmm. Let's go to a year later. In 2022, you have made around $1,100, but your $1,100 was worth probably a little bit over $1,000. So about a $75 difference. We go all the way to October 2024. This is how big it's impacted, is your real wages, so your nominal, if you will, wages are $1,250 is weekly earnings average for Americans. Your real earnings, which means how much you actually are spending, was just under $1,015. Okay, so this chart just shows that, yes, they say, the economy's good, the inflation's good, it's coming down. Yeah, sure, inflation's coming down from the previous month, but year over year, it's taking a toll on people because it's just been a compound effect.
Right.
That is the number one reason why people are voting, because they voted for Trump because they trust Trump versus Kamala, who's been in office for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see how, again, what I found with people is that if they're not financially struggling, I'm not financially struggling. Do I have a little bit more debt than I would like? Of course, yeah, I do. I do we have to put groceries on credit? Yeah. I said this to somebody, and I said this again. I'm not going to blame one president or another to say, oh, well, this is the reason why I don't have money. Again, we have a really nice, we're fine. But I am going to blame it for people who I can see it really impacting firsthand. I can see it. It's happening. And it's very sad to see. To me, that's the most important thing. When people say, "Oh, well, you vote," if you voted for because of this and abortions and races and blah blah blah, all this stuff. Well, I actually see my family getting more impacted by the economic stuff that's happening than any of that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, people, for the most part, if the economy is decent and the country is generally safe, right, people will have time to focus on a lot of the social stuff that the left wants to talk about constantly. Mm-hmm. Abortions, the LGBTQIA, 2IA plus rights, other things, right? They'll generally kind of entertain that stuff because, everything else is kind of fine, mm-hmm. right? So we'll put some attention towards that, right? But if you're struggling economically, if you're struggling to feed your kids, if you're worried about a war brewing in the Middle East that could cause a nuclear war, then all the other stuff doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because that stuff, an economic crash, a World War III between nuclear powers, all that other social stuff goes out the window. Nobody cares about that stuff. Not that it's not important.
Right.
Not that we shouldn't, focus on it to a certain extent. But if those two things are not so much secure and stable, none of that stuff matters.
We got bigger fish to fry.
Exactly, right? And that's the thing that people don't understand with the left. I think they do understand it, but especially the media, they're really trying to gaslight people. They're trying to blame. I saw this thing on MSNBC, and they're blaming Hispanic people voting right because some Hispanics don't like black people. They were saying black people voted right because some black people don't like women and they don't want women in office. And it's all this race nonsense back and forth. At the end of the day, I think what happened was the people of this country in a true election spoke, and the people, they were tired of the crap of the last 4 years, right? And one thing they were really tired of was there's a war going on in Ukraine. There's a war in the Middle East. You got China pushing up on Taiwan. Like we just said before, you got almost 500,000 kids, 500,000 children lost, trafficked over the border, right? You hear all these stories of all these illegal migrants, some illegal migrants causing crime, doing crime,
right.
Serious crime.
Right.
Gas is up almost double. And yet all you hear from the administration, from the media is things are okay. And we're being tired of, the country was tired of being told, don't believe your own eyes. Whatever you're seeing with your own eyes, don't believe it. Because things are actually okay.
So people, I'm going to put my other hat on real quick, just for this argument, for this discussion, right? The people are Chris Cuomo. Yeah, but. Why are people butting serious things? The thing I get nervous about.
What's the yeah, but?
The yeah, but is.
To that, what I just said as an example.
The yeah, but is that Trump's a racist, that Trump's he doesn't care about women's reproductive rights. He has a long history of being racist. And here's the thing. I ask people, I'm like, show me how. Show me where. Show me the long history of racism that you had, like that you are claiming. But people are so, like you said in the episode that we did about politics, it was very brief politics, not to this capacity, but you said people are very tribal. People are very conformed to their way of thinking. because of what they see, what they hear, what they trust,
where they're getting their information from,
what their experiences are in life. You know, so if their experience doesn't necessarily pertain to, oh, you know, there's no immigrants knocking at my door. There's no immigrants in Salem, Connecticut. There's no immigrants in New London, whatever the case might be. Then it doesn't really apply to them until it does.
Right.
Until it does. And that's the thing that I get nervous about a little bit, like, or was more nervous. Listen, somebody said to me that we had dinner about a year ago, actually. We were eating, and he was like, listen, you're worried about something that's probably not going to happen. You say you're probably right. It's probably not going to happen. But it's happening to people, right? And it's the same argument of, you know, it's the same argument of anything else. Right?
Why would you wait for it to happen to you to do something about it?
Right.
Why would you be reactive instead of proactive?
Right.
So you should look at it.
So, you know, I don't think, again, I'm eerily cautious about how silent things are right now. And again, I don't know if you feel that way. But I'm pretty.
It's definitely died down.
It's died down.
Died down quick.
Like nothing.
It's only been a week. It's only been 10 days.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah. Who knows what's gonna happen? You know, it's still another a little over 2 months.
Yeah.
A little over 2 months till he's inaugurated. He's making moves though. He's appointed a bunch of people. He's out on. You know, who's running the country right now?
Who knows?
Who knows who's running the country right now? Kamala Harris still has 2 months as president. Can she start doing some of the things she said she was going to do before she leaves office to protect her legacy, which right now is crap?
What? I'm surprised they just haven't. If Biden wasn't fit to be president, why didn't they just put her into the office?
Right. Why didn't he do the honorable thing was best for the country and step down and allow her to be the first woman of color or whatever they want to call her president?
And that's the stuff.
And let her do the stuff that she says she wants to do.
Right. And that's the stuff that.
Please, I want to see it.
That, like you said, people are just tired of the BS, the gaslighting, all of that. People are tired of it. You know, this stuff could be addressed, kind of, right? Like,
in 2 months, a lot can happen in 2 months.
A lot can happen in 2 months. And even with the border, right? Like, they waited 3.5 years to say, okay, we're going to start coming up with this border bill. Dave, you want to know what that border bill, how much money actually went to the border? It was $114 billion that went to the border, that was considered a border bill. $114 billion. How much money?
Was the total bill? I know a bunch went to Ukraine, didn't it?
There was the majority of it went to Ukraine and Israel, and then a couple of other countries for foreign aid.
Right.
$20 billion of 114 went to the United States border.
Right.
$20 billion.
Right. So that's why when you hear things like they're money laundering all this money to different countries so they get rich. So let's. How do you just discount that?
So I'm going to discount that for the sake of a quote unquote conspiracy. I agree with you. I'm going to discount that a little bit. Okay. The only thing I'm going to say, they called it a border bill. We were just talking about gaslighting and lying. Semantics. And don't believe what you see.
Right.
But why wouldn't the majority of that money go to the border?
Because when people who vote on it see what's in it and vote it down, the people who wanted the bill can call the name of the bill and say they voted down the border bill and not talk about what was in the bill.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
And it worked lovely because that's what they did for the last year and a half or so. The other side voted down the border bill. They don't want to protect the border. They want to run on the problem, not fix the issue, right? First thing he did when he took office, he dismantled all the border laws that Trump had instilled when he was in office.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So why don't you do something about the issue? Don't you have the power? Aren't you president? Wasn't the person who's vice president, who's running for office, what was her main responsibility?
The borders are.
The borders are.
The borders are.
Now, under her watch, as borders are, according to what you told me, what I saw as well, almost 500,000 children were trafficked across the border. And we're supposed to let this woman run our country?
And people will sit there and say, oh, well, no, she wasn't. The borders are. I've heard people tell me that. Straight up.
So Biden was lying.
But Biden was lying. And also, I was like, Biden called her a DEI hire. And
Biden called her that?
Well, he said I hired her because she was a black woman.
Well, she was a DEI hire.
Correct.
Biden didn't say that.
Correct.
He said it indirectly.
Yeah. Correct.
Right. Which is not a good look for DEI hires.
Yeah.
Because she was a horrible candidate. She was a horrible person, and she failed on the border big time.
So let's go through some numbers here real quick on the election. Because, again, this is what this is all about. Again, guys, I'm not – I'm trying to say this. So it's very hard for me to sit. It's hard to me to be center in this situation, mainly because of the gaslighting. I think the gaslighting in the media it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I kind of agree with.
You want to be centered?
No, I don't want to be centered. I just I don't want to be so biased, or I don't want to be so like right leaning.
I mean, it's an opinion. So, like you said, you don't disagree.
Sure. Correct. Don't listen. Turn it off.
DM Paul right here, Paul Exchange, and he'll branch you on, and you could counter his thoughts.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate that. So, let's just go through some numbers here. So we're gonna go through. Would you say Kamala Harris is a strong leader? Which is interesting here. There's some numbers here. So age group between 18 and 29, 50% said yes. And 49% said no. So it was a 50-50 split here. That was the ages 18 to 29. Ages 30 to 44, which is our group, millennials, right? 48% of people said yes. 51% of people said no. And then 45 to 64, which is another interesting number here. 45 to 64. Would you say Kamala Harris is a strong leader? 43% of people said no. 56 said yes.
For people older than 44.
Sorry, I apologize. 45 to 64, 43% of people said yes. 56% of the people said no.
Still pretty high.
That's high. And then 65 plus, 42% of people said yes. 56% of people said no. And again, here's the thing. I've been saying this to people. If she gave me something to like, be like, okay, I can jive with that. If she talked remotely close to Obama, how Obama
she
talked,
tried. She failed, but she
failed.
tried. Yeah, she tried.
She couldn't. There was nothing other than I grew up in a middle class family. That's it. Like, tell me how you're gonna
fix these problems that have been caused while you're administration.
Right. Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I grew up in a middle class family, and I am all about a opportunity economy. And
you know what's funny is that the past few weeks, all I've heard about is we should not vote Donald Trump into office because the world's going to explode of how horrible a person that he is, and he's going to be a dictator. Discounting the fact that he was already president for 4 years and none of that happened, right? Not once have I heard at all anybody say we should keep her and that administration in because of the great job they've done the past 4 years. I haven't heard one person defend the record. All they said is fear. I've heard people only fearmonger the potential of what Donald Trump might do. And I haven't heard anyone on the news or personally, I haven't, say, we need to keep Kamala Harris in because things are so good, like ... I haven't heard that.
No.
So what have they told you that is so great under these past 4 years?
Stock market, job. It's the same thing that they're hearing in the media.
Don't believe your own eyes.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
Got
it.
it.
Same thing
What else?
So stock market, the job numbers.
Job markets are awesome.
Which is terrible. Which is
which they fibbed on.
Which they fibbed on. It came out recently, and they fibbed on it. Which they don't even. When you hear that, the media knows that most people are going to hear it and receive it. They're not going to go back and just double down and try to fact
read headlines,
them, right? So what I had saw was that yes, the job markets, there's more jobs, not created jobs, people taking a second job to make ends meet.
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna make that look good on paper. So I've heard that. I've heard that's pretty much it.
I mean, what about foreign policy? These past 40 years,
No one.
How can you defend foreign policy?
No, you can't.
Inflation, Trump's fault.
No. But they blame the withdrawal out of Afghanistan on Trump. It was Trump's plan. I've heard that.
You know what's funny about that?
Real quick. Before you go there, the irony of this entire thing is that we're two Hispanic people talking about this and having a podcast to put out about how we feel, why we think Donald Trump is the better
candidate, right? I like him personally. He's all right. Well, whatever.
I don't
really care. I'm never going to be the guy in my life.
I don't look at to look at the candidate to be like, oh, I like him personally. Like,
a lot of people do.
Like I don't.
Yeah, they look at him like he's
why would I like him personally? Do I think he's going to run the country in a better way that they have? 100%. Yeah, and mainly because of the again the spending. And sorry, you could go on with your point. It's just so frustrating to think that like my way of thinking, I'm a Black Hispanic man. You know, I grew up in New London, Connecticut. I lived in a household where my mom voted Democrat, and I'm pretty sure she's probably still voted Democrat here in 2024. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. You know, and seeing, and I had somebody tell me like, well, look at your life. Like, look how, yeah, my mom was stuck on Section 8 until she was, and she's still on Section 8. Like she's dependent on the government because they've created that system. Which, by the way, going back to even just Jim Crow laws, I didn't know this until the other day when I rewatched Uncle Tom. Is from the Democratic Party.
That's a whole other episode.
We'll save that for later. So,
but this is the first time since I believe the 1890s where we've had two candidates that have been president before. Now you want to sit there and say, well, Harris isn't Biden. Well, according to her, she wouldn't change anything he would have done, and she was a vice president. So it is the same thing, right? So it was two clear choices, and I've said this before to people. I said you could either, out of the last 8 years, did you like the first 4 years better personally? How was your pocketbook? How was your finances? How was the world seen? Or have you liked the last 4 years? And whatever you like, just vote for that. Right. It's really just that simple. We could have a conversation about it if you want to. We could debate back and forth, but it's really that simple. Try your best to take your personal feelings out of it and vote off that. One thing that I did hear a lot during Trump's presidency, especially during the year of 2020, was everything that happened under Donald Trump's administration, his watch, was his fault.
Right.
And I didn't agree with that. I would push back about, what are you talking about? You're going to say these George Floyd riots are Trump's fault? Right. And they would say, yeah, of course, you know, he's the head of the snake. He's the leader of the war right now, right? He is in charge. So everything that happens under his watch, it happened under him. So he's ultimately responsible, right? Now, while I didn't agree with that, how could I argue that? Yeah. He was the leader during all the crazy stuff that happened during COVID, during the riots. So I said, okay, I mean, all right, you're right. I don't agree with it, but I can't argue that because you're right. He was responsible, right? But now these last 4 years, everything that's happened these last 4 years, I've heard the complete opposite. Mm-hmm. And all the things that have happened the last 4 years, it's not the Biden-Harris fault. It's Trump's fault, right? And it's crazy that they make that switch up so quick. How come it's not their fault now?
Right.
Why aren't you blaming the border czar for the border crisis? How is that Trump's fault? You know? And that's one thing that I've heard from a lot of people is no, it's not their fault. It's the buts. Oh yeah, the economy is rough right now, but it's because of some Trump thing. Oh yeah, the world is crazy right now, but that's because Trump did something back in 2019.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all I've been hearing lately. And it's very hypocritical.
Very hypocritical. Yeah. The one thing I don't understand, or I guess, going back to what Hormozy said, where people have similar ideas, right? But they don't vote in that direction based off of those ideas. Okay.
They vote tribally.
They vote tribally. You know, the one thing that I heard, you just mentioned like what you heard a lot in 2016 or 2020 and now here in 2024. The one thing I hear a lot now is that I'm just not going to vote for someone who has this character. There's no integrity, no morals, and that goes, I think, based off of the attacks I think that are on him, which I think he's going to win. From what I've been seeing, he's going to win these cases. And the cases, so Jack Smith. Did you see that, by the way? Jack Smith resigned. His team resigned.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he resigned. So I saw that. Letitia James is still going after him. And even that with the, I was like, so why is it that they're going to be dropping charges all of a sudden? And somebody had told me, well, I think because it's the New York case and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so nothing's changed? They're just dropping the cases now? Like, why wouldn't they still try to put him, send him to prison? So that was my
That's why they're calling it the greatest comeback in history.
It's
justice system at this guy. They try to kill him twice.
Bro, it's crazy.
They try to throw all these allegations at him.
Like, I obviously don't think that it's a movie. It almost feels like a movie.
Yeah, no, it's definitely made for a movie for sure.
Like, and then if he turns this country around after all that, man, my man might be a GOAT, bro. They might need to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so I think from 2020 to 2024, I think it was something like 18 million people voted less for the Democrats in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, those extra 18 million people that did not vote for the Democrats, they could vote for Trump in or vote for Republican in 2028.
Yeah.
Whatever you think of whatever party, you might think they're evil or whatever, if the Republican Party as a political party plays it right, they could snatch a portion of the population for future generations.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is a very historic election.
Mm-hmm.
So you might sit there and say, these people that voted for the first time, these people that switched their votes from 2020, these people that, voted for Obama and voted for Hillary Clinton, now they voted for Trump. And why did they vote for Trump? Mm-hmm. Well, these 4 years to them have been crazy, right? Inflation and an economy and the wars and all that. If they play it right, they could snag this group of people up for decades to come.
Right. And
usually after the presidential election, 2 years later are the elections for the Congress or for Senate elections and all that. Usually how it works is it goes back. So in 2 years when the elections happen, what's supposed to happen is some of those seats are supposed to flip over to the Democrat side, and then the Senate or the House or both might be Democrat, and then he might lose the votes.
Well, and that was the whole thing in 2022. That was supposed to be a red wave, right?
In 2022, correct, right. When it was never happened, right? And that's why a lot of people are saying Trump should have just won in 2020, because if he won in 2020, he wouldn't have got nothing done because he didn't have the Senate or the House. Now he has the Senate, the House, and he had the popular vote, right? So what I'm saying is, as a political party, if you play this right, you have opportunity to make a lot of lasting changes that you feel is right for the ideology of your party, and to hook these people in, right?
Yeah.
And if you do things right, the economy's booming the next 4 years. There's overall peace in the world. What makes me think that they won't continue to vote this way moving forward? Why would you vote different? Right. I mean, they've hooked minorities to vote for Democrats for 50 years, and look at our communities.
Right.
Now, imagine if these communities were booming and whatnot, and I'm talking as a country in general. Why would you vote differently?
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting to see that. And I could be way wrong. They could destroy the country at the way that the left is claiming they will.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first person to say I was wrong. I thought,
sure.
They're claiming, it can't be much worse than what it is the last 4 years, right? I thought they were going to be better. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens these next 2 to 4 years, right? Because the other thing too is he's appointing a lot of young people in his cabinet. Young people.
That. Yeah. Even his vice president I didn't know he's only 40 years old.
The VP is 40. Vivek is 39, I think.
He's 5 years old or 4 years old.
Marco Rubio has been in politics for a little bit, but I didn't realize he was only like 44 or 45 or something like that.
That's crazy.
That has a lasting impact.
Yeah.
Enough with the old congressman, man. Enough with that already. People are tired of the same people in Congress doing literally nothing to help the American people, promising us everything and doing nothing, just getting rich.
And not for nothing. Listen, to those people who say that America didn't want a woman president, let alone a black woman president, I fully disagree. I think that this country that would be one of the best things that happens to this country if there's a woman president. We're not doing it on identity or.
Well, Joe Biden did it on identity politics.
Right.
He came out and said, "I'm going to pick a vice president based off of her skin color and her genitalia."
Right.
That's all he said. And then people are mad when they call her a DEI hire.
Right.
Well, you were only hired not off your qualifications because you were black and you were a woman.
Yeah.
Which is what the president. I didn't say that. The president said it himself. Right. Don't get mad at me. He said it.
I'm just saying that, like, if that happened, if we have a woman president, whatever side, historically, that's going to be a big thing, right, for America. But the idea that that she lost this time because America wasn't ready for that, I don't agree with that. What they were tired of is what you just mentioned: the economy, the immigration.
At the end of the day, all I've heard is excuses as to why she lost.
Right.
You know, a bunch of whitewashed Hispanics voted for Trump. Black people that didn't want women in office. All the white racists came under the rock and voted for him. People are misogynists in this country. How about she's just a horrible candidate? How about the fact that in 2020 she only got 3% of the vote in her own state? She didn't even make it to the Iowa caucus. Nobody liked her at all. She was horrible. Horrible person. Horrible candidate. No one liked her. And then you get picked to be a vice president because of your skin color and your genitalia, right? Then you get selected, not elected, to be the president, the next nominee. Nobody voted for her. Who voted for her?
Right.
Name me one person that voted for her.
There's not a single person.
And the right is a threat to democracy.
Right.
Nobody voted for Kamala Harris.
Right.
And so I don't understand why people are so surprised that she lost. And she was a horrible candidate. I don't care if she was black, trans, gay, white, Chinese, orange. I don't care. She was as a candidate. She brought nothing to the table.
When this happened,
she had an opportunity to distance herself from Joe Biden. Right. They told her, "Did you do anything different from the last 4 years? Considering the Afghanistan withdrawal, considering the wars in the Middle East, considering the border thing." And she said, "No."
So let me ask you.
That's what did it for her.
Why do you think she was so inept? Like, do you think she's just inept in that her rise in politics is a credit to who she's been around?
I don't know anything about her rise in politics before. I've heard of things as to why she rose in politics.
So I'm reading. I read her chapter. I read the first few pages in Profiles in Corruption, and her rise into politics with her story, her background with Willie Brown.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Basically, obviously, and this is one of the things I had asked several people, not just one person, but asked several people this: if you can question Donald Trump in his character of, let's just say, getting with a hooker or saying certain things like locker room talk, which we all know what the locker room talk was in 2005. Listen, I'm going to call you out right now. Any male who played any sort of sport, who played anything, high school, college, anything like that, if you never said anything similar in locker room talk where the cameras weren't on you, I don't care if you don't have money, if you weren't a president, whatever the case may be. This happened before the presidency. You are a liar if you're saying you've never said anything similar to what he said.
We've all said things that we're ashamed of.
We are in private. Correct.
In private.
Correct. We cannot be hypocrites in any of that. Listen, I'm not going to go down anything that I've said, but all I'm saying is, if you're going to sit there and judge him for his quote unquote character, let's go back to her in this is actually, it's cited in Profiles of Corruption. Her uprise in politics came from a adulterous relationship with Willie Brown. He was married, okay? He was married. Yeah, she was not. 60, 29. And her rise in politics came because he knew people in high positions, and they appointed her. She didn't earn it. Very much like what they just did now. They appointed her as the candidate for 2024 as the president. She got appointed insurance commission jobs and even the DA job that she got, she was appointed, high-paying jobs. Mm-hmm. And when they split, she still had the backing of his donors, his sponsors, his, the relationships that he had, and that's basically what took her off. Yeah. So if you want to talk about character, and let's also, again, I don't want to be the but yeah, or also look at it and go tit for tat, but at the end of the day, that should right there should be the diffuser as to what the actual issues are in their country that they did not fix.
Yeah, I mean, that's all fair. I've heard of things like that before. I didn't know anything about her before 2020, to be honest. Same. I didn't know anything about her at all. I read things about her, the very mean thing that they say about her is she rose to the top by laying on her back, right? Very mean. Maybe there's some truth to that, maybe there's not. All I know is that everybody in politics, for the most part, gets a hand up to get to where they got to be one way or another. Right, whether it's fair or not, whatever the ways, fine, right? But ultimately, in a fair election, you will have to sit there and meet your maker when it comes to the people who you're going to be governing, right? And the American people read through the bullshit. They read through the nonsense. They read through the fact that she couldn't answer a simple question. Mm-hmm. They read through the fact that she took 2 days to prepare for an interview and still couldn't answer questions. Right, couldn't do podcast interviews.
Turned down Joe Rogan. Actually, no. Sorry, she didn't turn down Joe Rogan. She had stipulations.
I think she wanted him to go to DC, right?
And she wanted him to edit the podcast. He was like, I'm not editing.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean,
like, why?
I don't care what color she is, where she's from, nothing. But she's just a horrible candidate. And if you were vice president for 4 years, you would run on what you did for 4 years as president. Right. I'm not president. Fine. I'm not Joe Biden. But I was in charge of this. And this is what I did for this. And I fixed this. So vote for me because it could be like this, but bigger. No. All it was Trump is bad. Trump is evil. Trump is this. Trump is that. Well, what about what you're doing?
So here's my estimation or calculation on this. So let me backtrack. Here is my assumption. And I could be wrong. Of this, what just happened with this election. Obviously, Biden fumbled on the debate with Trump. Like that was crazy. I remember being there. Like I was
rough to watch.
It was rough to watch. I came
like watching a car accident.
I came home from I forgot where I was. I might have been golfing or something. I got home and I'm like, I got to watch the debate, and I barely watched it. Because for the first 30 minutes, I'm like, all right, this is, and even Trump was rambling too. Like Trump was rambling, and that's what he does. He's a rambler, right? He does that. So, so I think that my assumption and what they did is they thought she was going to win, and at that point we would barely see her. Very much like we don't see Joe Biden. We barely see Joe Biden. The only time we saw Joe Biden was during the first 2 years of COVID, when he's out there yelling, guys, get the COVID shots. Yeah. We're going to take your jobs away, blah, 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 like this, that.
Yeah, blaming the unvaccinated for the COVID spreading.
It's going to be a winter of death.
And telling you that you're going to lose your job if you're not vaccinated. Yeah, right. You can't travel. We're going to make sure you don't travel if you're not vaccinated. Show your passport.
Yeah. And again, guys, tinfoil hat. Ding, tinfoil hat. There. I do think that they were thinking she was going to win. I don't know how they thought she was the best candidate, though. Like, they could have put somebody else in. They could have did the same thing with anybody else. They could have said, all right, well, we're going to put in Michelle. We're going to put in Gavin. Or we're going to put in...
They should have had a primary.
They should have had a primary.
Let the people vote who they want to vote against Trump.
Right. They should have.
Probably would have picked Newsom more than likely, but let the people decide.
I think, and
she was selected, not elected.
Correct. She was coronated. That's what she was, a coronation. But anyway, so I think that they have, with how little noise there is right now, I think they really are kind of just like, well, we tried. Because there is no movement of anything. Where's, like you said, where's Joe? Where's the president, right? Where has been the president up until recently, where we saw him come out on Veterans Day? I saw him on Monday. He came out with Kamala. It was the first time that they gotten together. I don't know if you saw her and Joe.
He's in Peru right now.
Is he in Peru? Oh, for the summit?
Yeah, I think he thinks he's in Germany right now, but he's actually in Peru right now.
So, Again, how can you be unfit to run for 2024 but still be the president now until the inauguration? I just don't understand that. Why wouldn't they just relinquish that to her to then? That doesn't make any sense to me anyway. But I think my assumption is that they are giving up and saying, listen, I think they're taking L. I think they're
taking a big L.
I think they
have no choice.
They have no choice to take L.
All this extreme stuff they ran in the last 4 years, calling it now the word racist has lost its meaning.
Yes, 100%.
They've devalued the term.
Going back to the election, going back to these statistics that we were going through earlier, it was not even on people's mind. Again, these are exit polls. It was less important than it was in 2020, racism. And what happened in 2020? Like you said, George Floyd. That's where the racism thing came in. No one cared about it. No, I won't say no one, but it was just less important. Here's the reason why I just 100% could not vote for Kamala. Obviously, a few reasons here. The last 4 years, just we know it's crazy. Inflation was crazy. Blame it on the pandemic. Blame it on spending and government spending. We sent a ton of money to Ukraine. We've printed out a lot of money. Yes, Trump in his presidency, I think he printed out $5.53 billion of that came during COVID, where there was forced pressures to send out money to people because people weren't working. People got stimulus checks, things like that. So before that, though, the deficit wasn't as high as it was now. I looked at the department, the statistics on that, on the spending. But there's two things that really stick out to me here. If you paid attention to her campaign, if you paid attention to what she was saying, she was talking about interfering with corporations and stopping prices. Price gauging. I'm gonna come in there and I'm gonna go to these corporations and we're gonna stop that. We're gonna enforce this. That's called price controls. Right. And what happened last time they did price controls in the 1970s, you had the government interfering with, I think it was 70s or 80s, 70s, I think, the government interfering with the prices of gas, the prices of goods. It's going to fix the problem short term. But once they lift those price controls, what's going to happen? It's going to skyrocket. Right. And with this, that scared me because all I could think about is that, you got to worry about, let's just say gas is $2. Let's just say gas is $2 a gallon. We're going to make that, the government is dictating that. Right. That is $2 a gallon. You can go to Shell, you can go to Mobil, you can go to, that's going to run out fast. It's $2 a gallon, right? People are going to take advantage of $2 a gallon. So therefore, the producers can't produce at the rate that they would like. If they could produce at maybe $3 a gallon, they could probably produce a little bit more. So they were talking about the price controls. That to me was we looked at this the last time. It was the doomsday clock for money. Remember we looked at that? Yeah. It was like crazy amount of money, crazy amount of interest. That will exacerbate that. So that for me was just like economically didn't make the most sense, I thought. The second thing that really didn't make a lot of sense to me was
hold that thought with the second thought. They were telling us the economy was great the 4 years. Mm-hmm. You don't need price gouging if your economy is so great.
Correct. Go ahead. Correct. In a capitalist society, we wouldn't need price gouging.
Of course not.
The money's flowing freely, right? The next thing here was the attacks on freedom of speech. Being able to sit there and say, listen, if I said the sky is red, even though the sky is blue, you shouldn't be able to censor me because I'm saying the sky is red. You know what I mean? It just, whatever. The earth is flat. I don't go at people for thinking differently or saying things differently, whether it's misinformation or disinformation. She was going to attack the social media sites, that being X. And I think that X is probably one of the main reasons Trump won this election. Yeah. It is like buying X and making it this free flow form of communication with people and others. You get to see things that you don't see on mainstream. Now, the other side will say, well, yeah, exactly. That's probably why, like, it's, you're beginning, there's conspiracy theories. And, well, listen, there's a reason why the Moderna CEO stepped down. There's a reason why these big pharma stocks are crashing right now. There's a reason why you see, Dr. Malone back on X, the guy who created the mRNA vaccine. Yeah. Again, this isn't a vaccine thing, there's a reason why things are happening the way they're happening. There's a domino effect.
Right. The censorship thing. Yeah, that's the main thing that a lot of people were noticing was just the lack of information that we're getting on certain media sites, right? And what is the cutoff? Because are these media sites private entities that could do what they want, or are they a free platform of information, right or wrong, right? What is free speech? Where is the line drawn when it comes to the free speech, right? What is hate speech, right? Who determines hate speech? Hate speech is nothing but speech that they hate, and who's they? The people in control of the government, right? And that starts a very, very dangerous trend. That once you start limiting people's speech, that's the reason why it's the First Amendment of the country, right? To protect that, because civilizations, societies beforehand, a lot of them didn't have that. You couldn't speak freely against the people who were in charge, or you get in trouble. So,
it's crazy. So I did a few undergrad courses. Not undergrad courses, graduate courses with Southern New Hampshire University. And I believe my first class was business law. And in I think it was either business law, or I only took like 3 or 4 courses. But yeah, it was business law, because it was like, do you think that social media speech is free speech? Are you violating free speech by saying you can't say certain things? And this was 2016 or 2015. Yeah. And you think about it, and I wonder why they were really, like, you always think about, and I've always hear about, like, the institutions and what they push out to, the students of those institutions. And I mean, I can't remember what I responded. I think I responded that, I think that it is a violation of free speech if you're censoring, people on Facebook and like, say whatever the hell you want to say.
Right.
And again, listen, with reasonable, and I think people always make the analogy like, oh, so you can just go to the movie theater and yell fire. No, you're not going to go to the movie theater and yell fire. But listen, like I said, if I say the sky's red, the sky's red. Like, what does it matter to you? What does it matter to you?
The problem is just who polices it. Who determines what's hate speech? Who determines what should be censored or whatnot? Right. Somebody's determining that.
Right.
And who is that? And based off what? Where do you make a decision off of?
My vote and what I believe, I think are different things. I believe in a couple of things. Treat people how you want to be treated. That's number one.
Golden rule.
The golden rule, right? That's it. I that's what it all ultimately comes down to.
But it should come down.
That's what it just comes down to. That's what I believe. Now, when it comes to politics, and from what I've learned and gathered over the last 8 years,
and still learning,
correct, and I'll continue to learn. Who knows where I stand in 4 years? I don't believe in the gaslighting. I believe in the freedom of speech. I don't think that people should come into this country illegally. If you want to come into it legally. Again, I'm not dismissing these people who actually are looking for a better life, because probably 90% of these people crossing that border want to come into this and for a better life. But it's the 10%. If you have 15 million people in this country who've come in, and there's 10% of that 1.5 million people who could be bad people, I'm not saying they are, maybe 5%, cut that number in half. That's still a lot of people. It only takes one time. So the other day, I saw yesterday actually, that there was the FBI just caught somebody who was planning a 9/11 style attack.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know where he came from. They didn't say specifically, right? But that when you have people coming into this country illegally, I think people just think at the Mexican border, oh, they're just Mexicans. People are dismissing who could potentially be getting flown into Mexico.
Yeah, they're only crossing there because it's the easiest crossing. I mean, it's wide open. When you open up the border like that, you're inviting people to come in freely.
Right. So we don't have to agree. Anyone who wants to come on, I've said this probably 3 or 4 times already on this episode, anyone who wants to come on and have a conversation to maybe give me a different perspective, tell me to educate, whatever the case may be, come on the show. I want them to.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just because I think that ultimately where we need to get is there. I got told to not do this episode because you're going to lose followers. What do I care about that? I don't care. I mean, first of all, my following is not all that huge to care about.
Yeah.
But why am I being told to not talk about something that I actually have an opinion on? We should not be there. And the person that told me that, I don't think that they were saying that from a malicious standpoint. I think they were saying that because of just
out of concern, maybe
out of concern, or what they're being trained to think or say. Politics is something you would think religion has much a more polarizing issue than politics.
Not so much in a secular society that we live in. So
politics have become religion.
Have become the religion. Yep. That's what we as a society worship now. One candidate or the other.
And again, to your point, I don't worship this person. He's not going to be the savior. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm the one that's responsible for my family and doing what's best for my family and making the decisions and making the money that I have to. The question at hand is which one is going to make it easier?
And you could be wrong.
And I could be wrong.
But based off what, like you said, your experiences, what you know, what you hear, what you think is right, you're going to make the best decision based off that.
That's right.
And some people are going to make the complete opposite decision and think complete opposite of you. And that's also all right.
And it might not impact them. It might not impact the people who make the opposite decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that goes back to what Hormozy was saying, that listen, it's okay to have different set of ideas because you probably fall in the similar overall I'm going to fall in the same lines.
Right.
The election is just theater. That's what it is. It is just theater, right? Because here we are. We put case in point. We're 10 days removed. For the first day, maybe day and a half, people were posting on Facebook. I was hearing the conversations. People were upset. Here we are, 10 days removed. We probably won't hear about it again until January.
Yeah, I mean, it's holiday time. So people are going to enjoy their Thanksgiving, the Christmas, New Year celebration, Happy New Year, and then it's going to be, 2 weeks till the inauguration, and it's going to kick back up.
And it's going to kick back up again.
Definitely.
So, my hope, and I do hope that we can get to a place as a country and as a people, not even country, the people who hear this and like, oh, dang, I can't believe Paul thinks that way, or, he's wrong. I might be wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right. I might be wrong. But I'm okay with being wrong and then being corrected. You know what I mean? Time would only tell. What I know is that things have been more difficult, not just for me, but for people in my life that weren't difficult previously. And again, maybe some choices that go into that, maybe some economic stuff that go into that. Maybe none of that. I don't know. What I just know is that there wasn't a bigger selling point to vote the other direction.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just hope that people see, right now you turn on the TV and you'll think the world will be on fire and this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I hope that I am overall generally correct and it's not that bad and things will get better. I understand that I could be wrong with that as well. I'll be the first to admit it. And once it's not that bad, people see it's not that bad, people will have a much more willingness to be open to conversation and realize these people on the other side of the political aisle than me, who I have much more personal contact with than the person that I'm voting for, who I'm going to meet in my life, aren't that bad of people. I can have conversations with them. Things aren't that serious, right? The Democrat Party apparently has to reset their whole party, their whole ideology or whatnot, because they just took a beating. And now the Republican Party is going through like a reformation, right? So these next 4 years are going to be very interesting, and I hope what it leads to is some positivity in the country for open dialogue. I understand that, look, we might have a differences in opinion when it comes to who you're voting for, what you think is wrong, what you think is right, but we all have to live in the same place. And let's all realize that, and realize no matter where you come from, if your parents are immigrants, if your parents are here since the 1800s, we're all here in the same place trying to make the world, this country, a better place for everyone that's here. And with that, that trickles away, because we are the United States. We are the most powerful country in the world. And to use a Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. So when we're strong, the world is safer. And I hope that that's what it leads to. And people are just open to opening their eyes and realizing, oh, maybe I was duped by the media. Maybe I was a little bit too sensitive about this. Maybe I should have listened to this person. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe teach me something new. We're all about that.
Or even if I was wrong, maybe I shouldn't have acted that way. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's get there. Like,
yeah, maybe I was a little bit too sensitive. Maybe I was a little bit too emotional about this. Maybe I was so focused on this issue, I missed everything else over here.
Right.
Maybe I was so focused on this issue that I didn't care how I was treating other people over here. Right. This election was crazy. And you could sit here and blame Trump, but you want. Trump was a phenomenon. I mean, Trump wasn't a politician. But something about Trump and his message, even as a billionaire, that 99.99% of people in this country cannot resonate with. His message resonates with the people, and this election has shown that. That's fact. That's real. Right now, where do we go from here? I hope it's something positive.
One of the things that people don't say, and we'll wrap up with this, is that Trump never took his salary.
Never took a salary.
He doesn't need it. And the idea that he is doing this because he wants this fame and glory. No, I truly think he wants to make America a really dominant country and a good country. I really do.
I think he's a narcissist. I think he loves the attention.
For sure.
I'm not going to disagree with that at all. But I think he gets that from success. If he's a great leader, a great president, if he makes everybody's life better one way or another, then he feels like, he feels that he could take credit for that. Take credit for that. I'm doing better. You're doing better. My people I know that are doing better. Great. So, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So, guys, today's exchange was good, man. Politics, very surface level politics. We don't go into the nitty gritty. One, like I said, I'm not one that knows a ton about it, and
maybe one day.
I'm gonna keep learning. I enjoy it, and I hope that, again, meet somewhere in the middle with someone who you think differently with.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this new platform that you have. You're rebranding yourself a little bit, and I appreciate you having me on. And I'm looking forward to future conversations, political or not. So appreciate you having me on.
Let's do it, bro. Appreciate it.
All right.